Welcome to the Blabulation. Today, we're talking about classic movies. As we did last Sunday, we had such a great time that we decided to do it again. And this week, we are focusing on thrillers. We're saying classic movie thrillers, and I like Colleen Costello's definition, or one of her definitions of classic, is that not necessarily old, but memorable. But welcome, Colleen Costello and Jen Govey, my co-hosts on the Classic Movie Blabulation.
Look at her. Look at Jen and Joe.
Hey, Joe. Love your mask, Joe and Colleen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't it? It's amazing. I want one.
This was painted live on Meerkat yesterday, as the two of you saw some of that. And
we did. We helped choose colors.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We actually got to shout out, "Oh, green, yellow, yellow, green." Silver.
Yeah, but we were just like, oh yeah, I like the teal with that. I like that color. Yeah, it was very fun.
It's amazing.
Look at it. Have you scared anyone with it so far?
And
Did you go out with it?
No. I just wandered around the house and bugged Mike.
And poor Mike.
If only I had candy, it would have been just like the real thing. But welcome for those watching for the first time. Jen is in the UK, Colleen is in the US, I am in the US. We're all in different time zones, and this is the Blabulation. And last week, thanks to the recommendations of our co-hosts, including Matthew Ward, who will be here momentarily, I'm hoping, I watched Matter of Life and Death.
Yes, fantastic.
Also known as Stairway to Heaven.
Also known as Stairway to Heaven in the U.S. And then there was a... oh, wow, there you go.
I've got like an original poster.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I had to dig it out of my wardrobe.
Very cool. Those are great posters. And then Stairway to Heaven, the one that was made in the 70s with Warren Beatty, was inspired by?
It was, but it's
kind of. Yeah, because that had James Mason in it, did it? I think so. James Mason. Yeah. I remember. I used to remember that film, and he used to he died in a tracksuit or something, and I remember Warren Beatty wore a tracksuit throughout most of the movie.
Yes.
Well, for some reason, that's mostly what I remember.
And I remember seeing that movie. I was very excited when my parents got HBO in, I don't know, whenever it was. But it was like movies that I can watch with no commercials. It was just so it was like the first time that was ever available on regular TV, and they didn't have that many movies, so I watched a lot of movies over and over and over again. And Stairway to Heaven was one of those movies. Which is why I know that, and also Ragtime, which is an epic giant movie. With I'm blanking on his name.
Ragtime.
Yeah,
James Cagney, one of his last.
I'm not.
There you go.
They are big classic film fans.
And man, got it. Oh, this is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just want to say hi to everyone who is joining us live, which is really nice, and I appreciate you taking the time. Miss Christine, thanks for dropping by. Lord Thayer, you sound like you're a classic movie fan. Or you are a king of lord of some sort. You were sitting in a
Lord
big
Fair,
chair.
yes.
And Man, who we know.
And we know you'll have to change your egg, because eggs are. But I love it. I love that they're here.
Well, the cool thing about it is that they're here and they're.
Yes, yeah.
We know who they are and their eggs, which is even more.
Yep.
So the thing that I loved about I want to also say hi to Dutch Driver, who was with us last week. Thanks for
coming back
out. The other thing that really intrigued me about A Matter of Life and Death was that it went back and forth from black and white to color. I thought in a very inventive way, and a way I haven't seen since.
That's been done.
I know it's Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz last night, only briefly, in the picture of Dorian Gray was on T. Turner Classic Movies for the Weekly Essential. It was done in The Women for a fashion show. It's been used on a smattering of times, effectively in quite a few classics. Not all the time, but it's It's nice, and it's nice to see because it can create, as you saw, a really great cinematic and dramatic effect, and help to tell the story.
It's an epic film. I just love the bit when he first lands and he thinks he's in heaven and is all the sand dunes and some little kid with some goats.
and you see someone in the background like, is this a low budget movie that they couldn't find a place where there was no one in the background?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, she's delusional.
England used to be empty.
But a great film, and Peter Niven starring, or David Niven starring, and
as Peter,
right?
Yeah,
and mixing up names, and I don't want to ruin any of it, but it has such great. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth it. Sadly, the only place I could find to stream it was YouTube, so I watched the 9-minute section. So it's kept
that's dedication, though. See, that tells you how great these movies are.
Yeah, it totally works. It totally works.
Watching it, you can do it, but luckily, a lot of them are available. As I was going through, and a great way to find out where they are when you search for them on Rotten Tomatoes. I used this week to do some of my research. It tells you where they are, and for the most part, you can find them on either Amazon or Netflix or iTunes. So the movies are out there, folks, and you can see them and enjoy them, and they're there, and they are making such a comeback. Every month this year, there's a Fathom events in the U.S., and hopefully they're doing this all over in the U.K. and elsewhere. They're showing these films on big screens. In cinemas. So this month will be, wait for it. It's a great one too. Roman Holiday later this month. Will be on screens later around Thanksgiving-ish time, all over the U.S. on screens. In the summer they had Psycho. So that's the point, is they're out there. You can find them, and you'll love them.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's surprising how many are on YouTube actually, and all the trailers. I was looking at classic trailers today, so.
Oh, nice! I know there is.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've got some links to classic trailers, which I'll put in the comments.
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic.
Of my favourite, so we can.
Yeah.
So when we finish talking, people can go in the comments and actually click on some links. I didn't have enough time to get all of them, but
Oh, no worries. That's a great idea. And also, I know there is a way, and I have not figured it out, but I believe with Manycam you can play video in one of these windows.
Yes.
So I think that would be another thing that if you guys are having fun with this, we can make this a regular weekly thing and start like showing trailers and clips.
Yeah, and there's so many. I think that would. Because then, sometimes it's hard to convince. Maybe trailers became lobby cards, and probably you couldn't show a trailer in 1942, could you? Maybe I guess it was the real What help me, Uncle Matt? Aunt Ann? What did they do? I know.
Well, they had trailers back then. But they were just really cheesy, with lots of really cheesy voiceovers.
Where did they play? I mean, the reels in the cinema.
They play before the film started. You get the trailers like you do now. Yeah. So because cinema going was like their television, because they didn't have television in those days, and you have your upcoming films would be trailers run before the movies. So you go, oh gosh, I'm coming back on Saturday.
Coming attractions. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Dancing hot dog and
So my parents used to tell me these wonderful stories that when they were courting, and they used to you could just stay in the cinema all day. Apparently, you paid your money and you were in there, and you could watch the same film over and over.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
I know there was the jumping in and out of cinemas. I don't know if that was official, but
that's a more contemporary. There's a word for it. When you jump from theater.
Did you get dishes in the UK? That I heard they everybody was sent to the cinema to collect. You got dishes.
Dishes at the cinema?
Dishes?
Yeah, they got them in Brooklyn, I think.
Really?
I don't know. It's more we can have the little classic.
Now this sounds like a documentary. The dishes of film, the short-lived thing that only happened in Brooklyn.
It didn't last. It didn't catch on.
They got dishes.
Like people with like Cary Grant on a dish. Is that what you mean?
No, they weren't. They weren't. As best as I can remember, they were. I think plain white dishes.
But honestly, in terms of what is going on with the movie industry now, them selling merchandise would be a great idea to keep them going.
If it brought down the price a little bit, I mean, Matthew McConaughey like Snuggle Pillow wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, because I'd like to buy soundtracks at the cinema and
exactly
posters and pictures and
especially when you've just seen the film, that is the most hype. Hey, Juniper,
it's Juniper's here. Hi, Patricia
and Michael. Thanks for dropping by.
It would be to get, because people now, again, that Bonhams auction is I think, if it's this week, it's coming up with the film memorabilia, and people love these items with the buying, and most of them are affordable with the lobby cards, the scripts, the production schedules, and still photos, and then
these I bought at a poster store in the plastic for like $20 a pop.
Yeah, you have Blue Velvet. I know you have Vertigo. And what else do you have, Joe?
I have Chinatown. Back there is Taxi Driver, because I really want Rear Window and Blue Velvet, which I've had on this before, but Blue Velvet was and let's start getting into our recommendations. Yes. So the idea of the classic movie Blabulation is that there's no hazing for anyone who hasn't seen a film, so don't feel like you need to be an expert if you're watching this or ask questions or anything like that. Like I hadn't seen A Matter of Life and Death until last Sunday because of this show. And that's sort of what I'm hoping this becomes, a place to find out about stories that maybe we forgot about, or that, for some reason didn't come across our radar. And there are so many films that it is extremely possible to miss most of them because we're just inundated. And I feel like kind of like books, if you think of movies like books, the idea of pulling a story off a shelf and watching it, which really sort of doesn't happen as much now because it's more like we click on the thing and it starts streaming. But that's the idea of what we're doing. It's like hanging out, wearing ridiculous masks and wigs. and recommending movies, and we hope that you enjoy it and hope you find some cool movies to check out. So, Jen, what is among your first? And I know we're going to kill each other's lists.
I know. I think we share quite a few
off. Yeah. So that will have to be the downfall of the structure, but hopefully it'll just be like, well, just like, oh yeah, I'm taking that one off my list. Oh yeah, I'm taking that one off. And when we get to the end, there's just we all recommended the exact.
Yeah, I've actually got a pen this week, so I can write stuff down.
Oh yeah, I did that. Which is why I ended up watching A Matter of Life and Death.
Well, Jen and I, we had a pre-blab conference earlier in the week, and I think we're pretty safe with our
Oh, cool.
We double up on a few things and not on others.
You guys are like having pre-production meetings. I know. This is fancy blabulation.
Yeah, we talk about movies almost every day, don't we, Colleen?
We do, but we chatted, so.
Very cool. So Jen, what's your first classic movie thriller movie?
I didn't get in first. Because I just saw you had the poster. I thought, I better get in quick.
Crossing that.
Rear Window is my my favorite Hitchcock movies out of all of them. It's got Jimmy Stewart, it's got Grace Kelly, and I love the whole fact that he's kind of stuck inside. And I love all the windows, all the different lives going on. I mean, it's just pure voyeurism, and then it starts to get sinister, and it's a classic thriller. It's my favorite Hitchcock by miles. I love it so much, and I love the soundtrack. But it's mostly, it seems like, I mean, I remember it so clearly, even as a child, with the Piano Man. And I have to share the trailer because the trailer is hilarious.
Well, Thelma Ritter and Thelma Ritter adds to any film
she's
that
so
she's
great.
in, because she adds just a little bit of relief in the moments that are getting, and she can be hysterically funny, but not in Rear Window. It's not a comedy.
But parts of it are hilarious.
Yeah, parts of it, and that's what helps.
That's kind of what those are the kind of stories that made me want to tell stories, when you can have so much dark and still have something to genuinely laugh at.
And that helps to set up the tension, because the scary moments, because you get comfortable, and then all of a sudden it happens again, and so you don't know when it's coming. And Hitchcock, who did it, who was the master. So
it's totally on the edge of your seat stuff as well, because she kind of goes snooping. And you feel you're so helpless, because you're seeing it from the point of view of Jimmy Stewart, who's in his chair. He can't go anywhere. He can't call out. They didn't have mobile phones in those days. It was just, so you couldn't remake the film now, because everybody would be like on the phone going, "Hey, get out of there!"
And he couldn't yell out the window, "He's coming!"
But it's intense.
And it's like breaking and entering. It's just.
Judge Driver points out the tension is still there when Grace is in the apartment. Is still there after all these years. I agree.
Yeah.
After it comes on again, you're like, I'm in, I'm watching. And once you know what's going to happen, because then you're looking for the more, intricacies and other things. Well, what didn't I see? Or I'll just sit and watch Grace's dresses or the fashion. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Or what about the dog? There's Matthew. Hello, Matthew.
Welcome.
You're still at the church.
I'm still at the church, yes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and find a cup of tea, and we'll talk to you from there.
All right.
Okay.
I'm with Jill. Jill was just singing a song.
Hi, Jill. Oh, she's in choir.
We can't see Jill.
Hey, hi, Jill.
I'm waving, but it's
look at that glow from
spooky shadow in the background.
Now we see the kick-ass windows in the background that rock.
Yeah.
Let me just move
watch
on.
Watch his scope before. Oh, it's in his catch, so you can see. It's glorious church, historic.
There you can just see the tower.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
So there we go. This is a world's first, a blab from a graveyard.
Excellent.
So I thought that's
and fitting.
Oh, we should have a.
So sorry, I'm late. So what have I missed so far? Where
so far, the only film that we have recommended, because we were blabbing, is Rear Window, which I think is all of our lists.
Yeah, it's a favourite amongst us all.
Mr. Hitchcock.
Can I ask a question that for you to answer while I'm travelling? Because I probably won't be able to. I'll listen while I'm travelling, but I probably won't be able to say much. It's just define the limits of a thriller, because I was trying to work out what the limits are, because a lot of the films I like classic war films, for example, are actually more like thrillers than action films.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what the limits are to the genre.
Yeah, I think the thing with, the way we're looking at at least the classic definition, which we're stretching a little bit, but I like Colleen's take on classic isn't necessarily old, but it's something that it's memorable, it's quotable, it's because going through some of mine, I was just like, oh yeah, I haven't seen this this is only from the 80s. Oh yeah, this is, and same with a couple more. But but in terms of what a thriller can be, it is sort of looking at the list, it's kind of all over the map.
Yeah.
And I can't see why a war film wouldn't fit that as well.
Oh no, they're just some great thriller crosses a lot of categories.
Yeah. So we can have thriller, horror, thriller, war films.
Well, also I think because the horror genre has less, I don't know, suspense in it. I'm not taking anything away from it. I know there's huge fans, but it's
a bit on the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas Hitchcock is more, as much what you don't see is what you do see, which is, I think, makes a good thriller, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So,
well, a lot of war movies have not so much gory battle, but the plotting, the strategy, the espionage aspects, the surprise issues that went on.
Yeah, and a thriller's got to need a few twists as well, doesn't it? Really, a good thriller.
Yeah.
Twists and soda battles.
Yes, twists are.
Yeah.
Colleen, what's on your list?
Well, I'll since we're on Hitchcock, because I have a whole Hitchcock card.
Oh, good. She's working the card system. Interesting.
Well, it started out as quite this is Colleen's messy notebook, and I had to get it much neater. So it's not really that much neater, but anyway, I have quite a few, but I went way back, and Matthew, we talked about Robert Donat last week, and I have 39 Steps.
Oh yeah.
And The Lady Van, both.
Yes. No, I was going to just interrupt on the 39 Steps. I'm with Jill, as you know, and Jill is the person I was talking about last week who runs the website and Robert Donat. So I'm going to ask Jill very nicely if when we get back, she might talk to us a bit.
Okay, then I'll skip that for now, and I'll skip to another hitch. And because thank you, that would be great if she would. We're losing your signal, Matthew.
Oh, have we lost Matthew?
Matthew's going to audio only. Well, it's probably because his signal is moving.
But we'll be back in a few minutes, won't we, John?
Yeah, the latest Criterion version, which is beautifully restored. You can get it on Blu-ray or DVD. The sleeve notes for that is written by a chap called David Cairns. He's a Scottish film writer, and he really does know everything about this.
Okay, hopefully we can.
We can sort of hear you and sort of hear her.
Okay. We'll talk properly when we get back to base, and we can both be on the microphone.
Yeah, no worries.
You carry on. We'll only be 5-10 minutes.
Then I'll
carry on.
I'm sorry. You're going to welcome?
No. Continue with where you were.
I'll skip to The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's another Jimmy Stewart Hitchcock film. It's a lot, and
has that got Doris Day in it?
Yes.
Yes.
And he's moving around in this one. Really, I don't know if that many people know about it. They know Rear Window, of course.
And Vertigo.
And Vertigo, he did a lot. But this one surprised me quite a bit. He's got a son, and they're on a visit. He's in Washington D.C. and they're with a friend, and the friend is on a bus, and he speaks to someone, and he speaks to someone. There's a conversation, and then there's a murder, and then there's some assumptions. And then you go, and then the child gets kidnapped. And so
I'm already on board.
Okay.
That sounds like a good story already.
I was nervous. I was scared. I thought, oh my goodness, what have they done? And they're frantic, and it's a kid. Oh my gosh.
And trying to pretend they're not frantic to all their friends who don't know what's going on, because they keep it hidden that the kid's gone, because obviously they say they're going to kill him.
Yeah, and of course it's sensitive information, not only the kidnapping, but the information that was spoken. It's always everything sensitive material, so just beyond gripping, really gripping. I don't think Hitchcock, to my knowledge, made a bad films ever. So it's hard. One wonders why they aren't all up there with. I guess they are. It's just when you're that good, we think about the Vertigo, the Rear Window, the Cary Grant with. Why am I having a title?
Are you thinking of this one, please?
Not that one. I know, but the other one with Grace Kelly, and they're in Monaco. And
is that To Catch a Thief?
Thank you.
I love To Catch a Thief. That is a great. Oh, that's a brilliant movie as well.
So
I do love that.
So that's another one that I just love.
Yeah, because it's it's intrigue, because it's the cat thief.
And I'm a fan of political thrillers. I shouldn't say it. I'm sorry, not spy thrillers. And it has a bit of that edge, that feeling, because there's a fine line between spy and political, and not the politics part, because the more of the secret stuff.
Yeah, and the dialogues. I like the dialogue in that movie as well between Kelly and
it's sharp.
It's so funny and witty, and she's kind of a bit catty towards him, which is brilliant. I just love that the whole interaction between the two main characters is brilliant. So, and she's such a strong woman in the role as well. So you don't always get a lot of films where the women are really cool in it, and that's a good film. Though women are kind of well involved in it, aren't they? So.
Yes.
I suppose the Manchurian Candidate.
It's on my list. It's on my spy page. Yay!
I'm going to write that on my list.
Also,
it wasn't on mine. I'm not sure if I've seen it.
I've seen The Man Who Knew Too Much, but not in a really long time. But it wasn't on my list, so I put it on my check that out list.
So who's seen the Manchurian Candidate?
Who's seen it?
No, I don't think I've seen it. Oh.
Frank Sinatra. Actually, I have the DVD. Here it is.
Yeah, that's Angela Lansbury, I think. No, but wait.
Is
why do I?
1962. Frank Sinatra with 2 Academy Awards for acting, already to his credit, judged without a doubt the finest picture I've ever made. It's Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, Janet Leigh, Angela Lansbury.
He was in it. Okay, I thought, Angela Lansbury. She was his mother, Lawrence Harvey's mother, I think. Yes, and just not the kind of Angela Lansbury. Well, she could do anything too. Anyway, go ahead.
And Angela Lansbury won an Oscar nomination in that role.
Wow.
Because she went to a dark place in that movie. Whoa. So,
but yeah.
And last night she was singing about Yellowbird. Look at it. There it is. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I definitely.
Well, that's going on my watch list.
Yeah, it's really well done, and it has those twists and surprises and things that there's layers. You just keep pulling off the onion, and there's more onion. It's
more onion.
So
and then you might even see a clove of garlic somewhere. Exactly. It's unexpected.
I'm going to jump on one of my recommendations out of order, just because Matthew's shot. I'm calling that his shot because that's what I do. Reminds me of the movie. A much more recent one, Blood Simple from the 80s. This is the Coen brothers.
I don't know that Coen brothers.
It is really dark. Parts of it are absolutely hilarious, but there is some driving at night in this film. Let's just say, and a memorable scene when someone goes out to try to finish off a certain task out in the middle of nowhere with a shovel. And
a la Fargo sort of.
Yeah,
Fargo.
Yeah. It's definitely it has the wood chipper feel to it. But it's much more drawn out and kind of horrible and yet hilarious at the same time. But this is John Getz, Frances McDormand, and Dan Hedaya. I believe I'm saying it right. And also there is a character actor. Oh, Emmett Walsh, who's been in, that's actually him, who is great in this. He's such a bizarre actor. And
I know who he is. He does. He's great. Yeah. He's quirky.
The part that he plays, but I remember seeing this in the movies. There's definitely it has a Hitchcock feel to it. Even in the opening credits, the windshield wipers take the credits off.
Wow.
Like that's how they, and I'm like, that is so
different.
Cool. Jennifer says, I like that we were traveling with Matthew to his house, spotted a red telephone box. Don't get those up here. And Coen Brothers are an acquired taste. I think everything is an acquired taste to some level. But that reminded me, and also another one on my list that came out the same year as Rear Window, that's also Hitchcock, is Dial M for Murder.
Oh, yeah.
And how amazing is it that they came out the same year? That's crazy. Who does that?
He was on a roll. He was just
absolutely.
I guess when the iron is hot, if they were greenlighting him, he wasn't hearing no. Keep going. Prolific periods, and that's such a good movie. Another one. Every single time I'm sitting down. What did I miss? What's great?
Exactly. Joe, can you refresh us on Dial M for Murder? It's been a while. Yes, I will. I have it on my list.
Basically, this man's wife has an affair, and so he wants to bump her off, as they do in Hitchcock movies.
But she's wealthy, and he isn't.
Yeah. But she's really wealthy. But he obviously wants to keep his money, so he's got a will taken out on and everything. So he doesn't get done for the murder. He goes out and he calls in to pretend, so he's got a good alibi, and he gets someone else to go in and do it in. Shall I give? It's not given away. She manages to.
He picks a patsy. He picks a great patsy. He's so methodical.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jen.
That is
and
great.
He's really arrogant. He thinks he's got the perfect murder, and he's totally going to get away with it. So.
And it is Grace Kelly, Juniper.
And it's Grace Kelly, and we don't want to kill Grace Kelly. She's lovely. Terrible idea.
Wonderful, wonderful wife. But you also get to, as you get to see and know him.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a egomaniac. He was a tennis star, and now that's all past and done.
And that whole scene when the guy, I think he's hiding behind the curtains or something, and we all know he's there. And Grace Kelly I can't remember if she comes home or something, and
she's in bed. Mark and her husband, her ex-lover, and her husband go out to a dinner. And she wants to go to a movie, and he goads her into staying home to paste his clippings in the scrapbook.
Men,
so because I know he's got it set that the guy's coming that night to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be more fun if you stayed home and did some scrapbooking?
About me. And so then, yes, he creeps in with the key that's under the stair carpet.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, he's behind the curtain when she comes to answer.
Oh, it's so creepy, that bit.
Dial M for Murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
has a certain style to it.
Yeah.
And it is.
Well, I think at one point, someone's dialing, or he's dialing a phone, and they do a tight shot on the rotary on the camera on the Bakelite black phone, and you see those letters inside the numbers of the rotary, and it's just but you don't know yet.
Yeah. And I like the detective in it as well. The detective's good. Is that Jack Cotton is the detective?
No, isn't it Lewis Carroll?
Oh, I think it might be. Yeah.
With his mustache always.
Yeah.
Just has that little affect, and he's so proper. I'm thinking he's not a detective. He's just being Grosvenor Square somewhere, just toddling around with his cane. It's lovely. He's wonderful.
Very cool. All right, Jen, what's your next recommendation?
And are we just sticking with Hitchcock's for a bit?
I'm getting a weird click from you.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear anything.
Matthew, your audio's off. Yeah, it's a little. Actually, can you hit refresh your robot sound a little bit? You have robot sound.
Yes.
Maybe just twiddle the input thing a little.
Twiddle.
That's a technical term, twiddle.
It's very twiddle. I went to
Matthew, maybe pop in and pop back out.
Can you hear me?
No, your sound's screwed up. Maybe
pop.
No, you sound like a robot.
Distorted.
It's distorted. Maybe just pop in and pop out and pop back in.
Right.
Metal Mickey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Hold on.
All right, hold on. Matthew, I'm gonna pop you back. I'm gonna pop you out. Pop back in. And let's see if we can get that sound, because there's some kind of weird thing in the background.
It was odd. He was.
And as Juniper mentions Marnie, that's a good one.
Okay, cool. Much better.
Marnie. Oh, okay, yeah.
Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren. I think it is Tippi Hedren, isn't it? Juniper. I'm pretty sure.
She was in both. She was in that and The Birds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's got a really brilliant soundtrack. Bernard Herrmann. This is a really great film soundtrack. Marnie. It's kind of along with North by Northwest, which is my first Hitchcock soundtrack I ever got.
Oh, wonderful.
I love that movie. That's a really
cool,
great soundtrack. The opening sequence, and the music's great. Everything's great about North by Northwest.
So Colleen, let's go back to your recommendation.
Can you hear us now?
Oh, it's a little robot-y.
But it's kind of cool in a way. There's like
I get half of one and half of the other.
Yeah, it's a weird. Yeah, you sound like a robot.
You know what? It's the mic, but he was fine in the car. We lost Joe. Maybe it's Blab.
Oh, crikey.
Now I refresh.
Yeah. Whoa, that's a long crikey.
Yeah, Matthew, maybe quit the app and come back in, because your audio is now completely just noise. I don't know why.
He was on a mobile app and in the car, and then now it's the laptop. No, I don't know.
I think he's still on his phone, or an iPad, as the case may be. But that's the weirdest.
I think he uses an iPad. You're right. Yeah. It was the Robert Donat 39 Steps.
Yeah, we'll jump on that when it's
yeah.
When they
Saint Martin Landau. Oh, we're talking North by North. Oh yeah, they were incredible in North by Northwest. So the cast, but Hitler. What's wrong with me? Hitchcock.
Hitler was a fine director.
He thought so. The great dictator.
The great dictator. Yeah.
We'll have to have a Chaplin.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
We'll do Chaplin. We'll do Chaplin and political comedy.
I don't know. Political comedy. Yeah. That's a good topic. Hitchcock. Okay, now I'm.
So, yeah, Dutch driver, dictator, and director, not that different, are they? Depends.
Some film sets could people might.
I try to see it as like a part.
How do your sets go, Joe Wilson?
Way more fun on mine.
I would. It's all.
Yeah.
Matthew Ward, come in, Matthew Ward.
Sounds good.
Can you hear me, Mother? Can you hear me, Mother?
I can. Yay! We have audio.
Hooray!
We have blast off. And so 39 Steps with the wonderful and talented Robert Donat.
Let me just introduce first. This is Jill, my business partner, who's on Twitter as A Happy Flower, so you can follow her there.
Happy Flower.
But Jill also runs A Happy Flower.
I couldn't find her. I was like trying to go, Jill, nothing.
Jill with a G, not a
No, I know G in Britain, but I just go ahead. So anyway,
Don't worry.
So Jill also runs the All Robert Donut account and the website. So she knows a great deal about Robert Donut and the 39 Steps.
So that's robert-donut.com. if you want to go and have a look. And actually, what I do is I kind of collate articles from experts on film, and more people seem to want to write about 39 Steps.
Oh.
Good, because people, if you want to read some really cool articles, then do have a look. There's lots on 39 Steps there. Oh no, had another disappearing people. People have vanished.
Yeah, for some reason the audio is bad again.
Poor internet signal.
Could it be their router?
Wi-Fi must be.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on your Wi-Fi at the moment?
No, I don't think so. We're just obviously having a glitch.
Yeah, but
sometimes it just means we can hear you great, and you sound terrific. But sometimes it's just reboot the Wi-Fi if there's a reset button on it. I don't know. But we hear you great.
That might be the thing to do.
Yeah, the audio sounds great.
Yeah, so go ahead, John. Can you hold the thing while I get the power back?
Yeah. So where are you going? You're going somewhere.
No, I'm here.
Okay. All right. No, I don't think anybody really wants to look at me. Anyway, so Robert Donut is probably best known for 39 Steps, and his role in it, you probably already discussed this, but I'll just rant on about it again, is really, Hitchcock set him up to be the quintessential Hitchcockian male hero in his films. So if you look at James Stewart, you look at Cary Grant, you look at Sean Connery that you were just mentioning, all the kind of Hitchcock male heroes in his films, they are all very much following the model set up by Robert Donut. And that was very much set up by Hitchcock himself. So he was his ideal leading man.
Oh, interesting.
So Hitch wanted to work with Robert again, but Robert was very choosy about the films that he worked on, partly just because he didn't want to keep doing the same thing all the time, but also because he had quite poor health. And he sort of felt, well, I've done that now. I've done a Hitchcock thriller. I really don't want to do another one. So he only ever did the 39 Steps. Unlike some of the other Hitchcock males, who of course did several.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see him in more. Of course, I love Robert Donut's other films, but he's so talented.
What are some of his other memorable films?
Well, he won his Oscar for a film called Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which he won that in 1939. He beat Clark Gable as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind to the Oscar that year.
So good.
And James Stewart as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So, he had some strong competition. Those are probably the two that he's best known for, I would say. His last film you might have heard of was The Inn of the Sixth Happiness, which starred Ingrid Bergman. He played the Chinese Mandarin in that. No, Matthew, let them see you, dear. They'd far rather see you. One of my big plans, really, with the website is to get Robert's work better known, because there are a lot of really good films that he did that people just haven't heard of. There's a lovely one to watch at Halloween called The Ghost Goes West, where he plays the modern-day person, say modern-day, 1930s, so really old-fashioned to us, and his Scottish ancestor, who comes back as a ghost to haunt the castle that he lives in, and much hilarity ensues. And that's a really cute film if you manage to get to see that. I think it's available on YouTube. That's sweet. He made lots of propaganda films during the war as well, the Second World War, so catch any of those. Some of those are like sort of proto-James Bond films, so they're really good. But going back to the 39 Steps, you were mentioning North by Northwest earlier. The 39 Steps and North by Northwest are really very closely related. And North by Northwest is kind of Hitchcock's remake of the 39 Steps, if you like. Yeah, sorry, I'm hogging the line. Did you want to say anything about North by
Northwest?
I'm
just illustrating.
Visual aid.
You're illustrating.
Visual aids.
That's fantastic. if you want to get a copy of the 39 Steps, because it's popular, there's loads of copies out there, but the best one to get is the Criterion Collection one, and they've restored it properly recently. Some films you get and they say they're restored, but they've not taken the fluff out of the gate, and they're still jumping up and down, and the audio is absolutely awful. But Criterion have done a fantastic job, so get hold of their copy, and it's really crisp and new. Yeah, absolutely. It's part of their Criterion Collection range, so it's it's the one to get.
Jill,
Matthew,
why do you think 39 Steps is the most talked about, or you're finding the most talked about in terms of Hitchcock movies?
In terms of Robert Donat's movies, I think it's partly to do with the fact that Hitchcock is so popular. I think that's it. I mean, this story is based on a John Buchan novella, but it bears very little relation to it. It's the 39 steps that are in the story are not 39 steps that were in the book. Hitchcock more or less completely rewrote it. It's just as well he did, because in the book he's a bit of a racist, misogynist, not a very nice man, Richard Hannay, but Robert Donat's rather sort of charming everyman, which is kind of what Hitchcock went on to do with all his other male heroes, really. So
interesting.
Yeah, I love. They're all affable, likable, lovable, heroic people.
Absolutely.
And he's just the sweetest. You can't not like him or love him.
I know.
Really, it's He. I
think everybody's favorite is the scene where he goes into a political rally and he's running away from the baddies, and he stands up and pretends to be the politician. He doesn't even know the name of the person he's being, so he reads it upside down and says that he's Mr. McCrocodile, and it's fantastic. It's just great.
And makes a great political speech in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is this the first time that the first time that Hitchcock sort of created this archetype?
It was really. It was the first time. Yeah, I would say that he developed it on from there. But yes, his earlier films, although they had kind of had a male hero in them, this was the first time that we really saw the Hitchcock male hero that I
have it as
we're used to.
1935, and then The Lady Vanishes, 1938. So these are among the earliest of his, I think, features. Probably, I'd have to check, but because he's done so much work. But I was putting down some dates in my little thing. So it's what a career for the actors and the creatives behind the camera. So incredible.
Where does Hitch appear in the film?
Where does Hitch appear? It's quite early on. There's a scene where Robert's either getting on or off a bus.
It's hard to spot this one.
Walks past.
Wasn't this the one with the newspaper or with the bus? He's near the, I don't want to say. I think
he's walking. Yeah, he's walking past the bus.
Yeah,
or something. There's a scene where people getting
on and off. Yeah.
Did he ever? There are films he didn't do a cameo in. Is that correct? The early stuff.
He doesn't always appear in the flesh, but there's either an image. One time there's like a newspaper and there's a photo of him. So if he's not physically in the scene, he's substituted. So he likes to change it up or trick people.
You don't always necessarily know it's him. There's the the really early one with Ivor Novello, The Lodger. And if you haven't seen that, it's a really good sort of Halloween-y film. Fantastic. Set in London before Hitch went to Hollywood. So it's a kind of an early black and white with Ivor Novello, who was a real matinee idol of the time and who nobody's ever heard of now either. And it's silent. And it's fantastic. And there is a scene in that where, again, he uses very kind of basic special effects that he went on to develop in films like Vertigo, etc., later on, and you can see them in that. There's a scene where somebody's walking on a glass ceiling, so you're in the room below and you can see the footsteps going across the ceiling, and in that I think Hitch is just sitting at a typewriter and you just see his back. So you don't even see his face, you just see the back of him, and the hero walks past. So He's always in there somewhere, as far as I know. I'm not a huge Hitch expert, but I can't think of anything where he's actually not in there somewhere.
We could check it out if he missed one. Who knows?
And also, we should definitely do a Hitchcock episode.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Just talk.
Hitchcock time.
Yeah, because Trevor's like, shouldn't we change the topic? Yeah, the topic's going to jump all over the place. So you say movie thrillers, that's what happens. But thank you, Jill. Thank you for that information.
You're very welcome.
The dope. That's really interesting.
Well, thank you for letting me join in. I'm actually absolutely shattered because I've just been singing for 2 hours. So I'm going to go and leave you with Matthew, and I'm going to go and get a cup of tea. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks.
It's nice to speak to you all.
Thank you.
And see you again. Bye.
Enjoy the tea. Tea cheers, as the case
were. Cheers.
Very cool. So Jen, what's next on your list?
Would you like an old one or a new one?
Either way, your choice. Actually, let's go new, since we've been talking Hitchcock for a while.
Ooh, how new?
Or newish.
What shall I go? Oh,
Blade Runner.
Yeah,
I've got the house.
Yeah, this is a great thriller. It's just, I know it kind of goes into the science fiction fantasy realm.
Yeah, but
it's got all the hallmarks of thriller.
Yeah, exactly. and it's based on a Philip K. Dick book called
Sci-fi thriller.
I'm blanking on it.
And
Two Androids Dream of Electric.
There you go. That's it.
That's the one.
Nicely done.
And I think I read it, and it wasn't very similar at all. I read the original, and it was just like, oh, okay. It was, Philip K. Dick is quite an interesting writer, so I think Blade Runner was a very good interpretation of the original source. So, but it's just brilliant. It's beautifully shot. It has the classic thriller of the shadow. The cinematography is just brilliant, and the fact that it always seems to be raining in the future. For some reason, I really like that. So. But,
do you know what the visuals are based on?
What?
The imagery. Do you know what the imagery of the city is based on?
It looks like Mayan, but...
Nope. It does begin with an M, but it's not Mayan. Because some people think, it's sort of an extrapolation of Tokyo or something. Nope, it's based on Middlesbrough. Absolutely true, because
he's from
Mr. Scott, he based two of his films on that area, one of which is Top Gun, which he based on RAF Middleton St. George, where the British Lightning fighters were based. And he lived a few hundred yards from that airstrip, and so he used to see them taking off. So Top Gun's based on there. And he's actually said this in an interview, and he's also said that Blade Runner's based on what he used to see looking over to the chemical factories of Teesside.
Wow.
So next time you see Blade Runner, instead of thinking, these really cool, hard-boiled American accents, just think they should all be speaking like from Teesside. I definitely think you're going to shoot me, because I'm an android, and you cannot really go around shooting like that.
Well, there's a great confluence of UK and Hollywood filmmaking, and so best of both worlds.
And it kind of makes sense, right? It's always raining in the movie, so it rains a lot up there.
And there is also more than one ending, I believe, to Blade Runner.
The director's cut.
Oh, there's about 8.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So, my dad actually my dad did the titles to a movie called Legend years ago, and my dad actually did some special effects on Blade Runner.
Oh, cool.
The camera going in, in the photographs, and they analysed the photographs. My dad did a lot of the opticals on that bit.
Oh, nice.
So he knew Terry Rawlings, and this is back in the 80s when I was a mere snippet of a little kid, and he took us to go and see Terry Rawlings, and he showed us a lot of the outtakes to Blade Runner. And that's kind of what made me think I want to work in post-production, because it was the coolest thing ever. And he was showing all the different, talking about how different films can be with just the editing. And interestingly, Legend, in the original Legend edit, it had a Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack. And talking about thrillers, you don't see Darkness, the main kind of evil character, in the film at all until he steps out of a mirror about halfway through the film, and it kind of really builds it. But it was recut for America,
right,
where you see the darkness kind of right at the beginning, and it had Tangerine Dream music. And if you're into studying editing, if you watch the British and American release, it's really interesting to see the differences you can make in post-production. So, which made me think I want to work in editing all those years ago when I was a teenager.
Is it true that it's the last sort of big film that's made before computers came and spoiled?
Which one? No. Film editing on computers didn't really come in till kind of 2001-ish, I don't think.
No, sorry, not so much the editing, all these computer graphics.
Yeah,
because Blade Runner,
a lot of it was still, it was pretty much still opticals, because my dad was working on opticals, and he pretty much worked right up until the noughties, as they were. About 2006, I think it kind of went completely over to computers. So, yeah. But luckily my dad was quite old, so he retired.
Oh, I've got some good comments come here. Dutch is saying that there's rumour of Blade Runner 2.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well.
That did come up. Yeah. I don't know.
I haven't heard anything since, but then again, there's always rumours.
Well, it's sort of like sequels and dead celebrities who aren't dead seem to continue to crop up on the internet. But I'd be interested to see. I'd interested to see what happens next. Where does that story go?
Yeah.
Especially if they keep all the cast in place and really play with that amount of time. It'd be hilarious.
I mean, it's bad enough with Star Wars. I mean, what a joke. I do like to go to an intergalactic battle, but I have to have a cup of tea.
Dutch Driver saying the storyline is that Harrison Ford character is an android, which is another take on the on Blade Runner to begin with. All right, let me jump on one of my. Oh, actually, Matthew, you have not recommended a film yet.
Oh.
Would you like to jump on?
Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's go a fairly early one. I'll just pick up a comment from Juniper saying that she knows Middlesbrough because her sister was born there, which is cool. I used to live in Middlesbrough, so you never know. I may have met her sister. During the war, I mentioned earlier, there's loads of films of every genre. And one rather jolly thriller is called The Man Who Never Was. And it's a true story, as far as film true stories go. It's about a wartime operation called Operation Mincemeat, which was one of the most bizarre ways to fool the Germans about D-Day. Not D-Day, about the invasion of Crete. And this is really what happened. They went to a hospital and got the body of somebody who had just snuffed it from TB. They put him in a uniform, put everything in the pockets of the uniform that should be there, from a tailor's bill to a mess bill to a theatre ticket stub. They invented a backstory and put his backstory into all the records around the UK. And then they put him in an icebox, put him on a submarine, sailed the submarine to just off the coast of Spain, and then chucked the body in the sea, so then it would float and land on the beach as if it had been an airman from an aircraft that had been shot down. And they really did this in World War II. And it did fool the Germans because they found this body, they did an autopsy and confirmed the person had drowned. And they sent spies to the UK to check up on his backstory, and they found all the clues that had been left by the British security people, and it distracted the Germans for this invasion and saved lots of lives.
I think I saw it.
So it's not an action. There's no real action in it at all. It's just all spies.
Intrigue. And some of the best stories are the true stories that have just been recreated on film. It's just, they were clever. They were so clever.
Yeah,
really.
Strategy. It's strategy.
And there's lots of twists in it. So the one of the spies who's trying to uncover the story of the fictional man is a Irishman. He's obviously come from the IRA, but the British police get onto him. So the British security guys who've set up this whole thing have to stop their own police force from arresting him and spoiling everything. So there's a lot of the battles within it are between British security forces trying to stop each other getting in the way.
That's a really cool story.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Gus Driver says, I'm guessing he's referring to this. I just saw that a couple of weeks ago. It has Clifton Webb as section lead. Is he talking about the same film?
I can't remember the name of the guy doing it.
I think it is. I'll quickly.
The Man Who Never Was. If somebody can Google that.
Go ahead.
It was made soon after.
Who Never Was. I got it right. My mistake.
Probably about 49 by guess of it.
Very cool. My list of movies to see are getting longer, as always, which is the great thing about this episode of Live.
Hopefully will increase a lot of people's lists. It's
no problem.
Man Who Never Was. Ronald, yes, Clifton Webb. Dutch is correct. Gloria Graham, she's Dynamite. Robert Fleming, Josephine Griffin, The Truth. Yeah, and it was. I'm trying to get a year here. 1956, Second World War film. Yeah.
56, quite late.
Yeah, so 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, that's what this class. Yeah, it's well, we take those ratings for what it was, but it's terrific.
And I think that's the great thing about these stories is that, you know, they're like we said at the beginning, it's like having a book on a shelf that you pull off and
great analogy.
And you don't know anything about it, you never heard of it, and it's fantastic. It's just you've never heard of it, so why would you know about it? So that's what I'm hoping we find more for people, including myself, to find. Jen, what's your next recommendation?
Oh, okay, I'm going to go modern again.
Heat,
which is the almighty power of Pacino and De Niro in one movie, and it's kind of a cat and mouse, and they're kind of chasing the guy, and you're rooting for both of them by the end. So it's a really, really great characters. The dialogue is brilliant. The pace. I think Michael Mann directed it.
Yep, it has a crazy action scene that they compared to an actual bank robbery that happened in North Hollywood at the same time the movie came out.
Wow.
Because it literally involved the LAPD having to go to gun stores to buy guns because they were completely out-armed. And these guys had body armor, and it was, yeah.
Oh, yes.
They're walking down the street, like in Heat, walking down the street with automatic weapons. And to see De Niro and Al Pacino, just there's a scene with them that is worth worth the price of admission just to see the two of them.
Just that.
Yeah, it's a giant movie. I mean, the movie is it's how long is it? 240, 230?
Let's have a look. 164 minutes.
Yeah.
So almost 3 hours.
It's a long one, but it's
worth it.
Yeah, if you like I'm a huge bank robbery. I'm a sucker for a bank robbery story. I've made a bunch of sort of bank robbery based or more aftermath stories than the fun part. But I did shoot one little bank robbery. But it was just a thing in a film I made called Clyde Hates Bonnie, which is on YouTube.
That's a good one.
Thank you. It has a tiny little bank, but the whole thing's about a bank robbery. But Heat is fantastic.
Yeah.
And another one of those movies that you flip by.
Yeah.
Like, I'll start watching this.
Yeah, because I mean it's 1995, so it's kind of not that old and not maybe overlooked. So.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the shootout, because that had a huge effect on policing in the United States, which we're still seeing the effect of today. So that film is a record of that moment in time when things suddenly changed.
Yep, absolutely true. Between that and I'm going to dive into a political mess if I talk about it. But yeah.
So basically, police changed from being police to being a military force at that time because of this event.
Yeah, that was definitely the beginning of it, or part of the beginning of it. Colleen, what's another one on your recommendation list?
I have modern, because we were actually all of his three directorial efforts I think are thrilling films, tough topics, but I'll lead in with Argo. Is a true story also. It's a CIA agent, Tony Mendez, who had to create a story to rescue 6 people out of Iran after the Americans were taken hostage in, I think it was 1974. No, I'm sorry. I should know this by heart.
79.
79. I should know this by heart. Why did I? I'm sorry.
No worries.
Nightmare of and so he had to create backstories and character names for them and set up a fake film production crew in LA. Not too hard. There are CIA people in LA. And so they did, and it worked, and he got them out. This is not news. It happened. And so, but to see it, I mean, even knowing it happened, it was like watching Apollo 13, which a lot of people didn't know about. You just watch it and go, oh my goodness, what a ride. The pressure they were under. It's just,
I've heard good things about it, but I'd never seen it. And I know of, I will try to make a long story very short. There are characters in Vampire Mob that are based on actual members of organized crime who I had regular contact with at a bar that I worked at in Boston. And one of them was Frank Salemi Jr., who was Cadillac Frank Salemi's son. Cadillac Frank Salemi was supposed to take over the New England mob after the FBI did a wiretap of the Patriarca family's little social club. And he was going to court, and I worked at a hotel bar, the Royal Sonesta Hotel in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Look it up if you want to hang out with. No. And so he was going to court on a regular basis. And then all of a sudden I got a call like 11 o'clock at night, and it was one of the other bartenders. And she's like, turn on the TV. Frank's on the TV. And the FBI had set up a fake movie production company in Santa Monica, and they were trying to shoot a film in Boston. And they were trying to get around the Teamsters, so they busted Whitey Bulger, Frank Salemi Sr., Frank Salemi Jr., and I think 2 or 3 other guys on racketeering and a bunch of other stuff with their fake movie company. So, and that was 95.
Yeah, they probably had to do this a lot more times than we'll ever know. But there's times when we find out. So it's really cool. And I grew up in Howard Beach, Queens, which, if you don't know by now, was John Gotti's hometown.
Right.
So
that is actually where Frank Salemi Sr., when someone tried to kill him on Route 1, because there was a big power struggle in the New England mob, and he went and hid with Gotti.
Well, they were all, I probably know his face if you show me. His kids, it's a small, tiny place, and his son was in my confirmation. It was weird.
Yeah, and the one thing, when you're talking about bad guys in the movies, that when you're writing someone who's a bad guy, having had the time that I had just hanging around talking complete BS with these guys about the weather, the news, the sports, and then when you go back to write a character who is a genuinely horrible bad person, you think, this guy's got a wife and kids, and he's pissed off about the weather, and just like everybody else, he just has a different business. That's all. And
it's 2 worlds. It's 2 worlds. It's strange. Exactly. There's your gun right there.
No lie. I had 2 main guys. One guy was really not the smartest guy in the world, who was a big part of Don, the hitman, the character in Vampire Mob, was based on him, because he never thought stuff through. He started getting the hair implants and he got about halfway, and then he quit. So he just had these like sad cornrows of jammed sewed hair in his skull, and then just bald around it, and then his regular hair, and he never went to get it finished. And I'm like, didn't you think maybe that this would look even worse if you
try and make fun of him?
But he did say, no lie, he did say, "Want to see my new gun?" Hey, want to see my new gun?
I know he did.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
Like, look at that Beretta, baby.
Goodness me!
Like, and this is in a bar. This is a guy I see 5 days a week, weekdays. We were all helping him cheat on his wife. It's a longer story, but regardless,
it becomes. But this is why these things, these stories are believable and real. It's whether it becomes a fictitious character or a semi-fictitious. They were real people. So a lot of them were written off of real, like what Joe did with Vampire Mob, or even Play Shorts, probably. It's thought of who did we interact with? Who did we? I'm sitting in an Italian restaurant on 18th Avenue in Bensonhurst with people that are packing heat, and I started sitting against walls in restaurants too. It's weird. You pick up this stuff. You do, because if I'm eating around wise guys, I don't want to go down either. I saw The Godfather, so and that movie is like hanging out with my neighbors.
And speaking of The Godfather, I'm going to throw a recommendation out, then I'm going to throw to Matthew, because when I was reading this one, and this is one I actually owned on VHS, and I didn't know until today that this was the film that Francis Ford Coppola made between The Godfathers, and that is The Conversation. It is an amazing twist in a story. The whole thing, Gene Hackman just destroying on screen this just tormented guy who is a audio surveillance expert and works for good people and bad people. And it is, this is mid 70s. So it has, the technology isn't anywhere near what we're looking at now, but there is an opening scene where, I have a script written for a short film based just on the rhythm of The Conversation. He sets up a way to have two people who know that they are probably being watched. So they go to a public place so they can have a conversation. And what he does is he sets up different men with different kinds of mics in different locations, and then he can piece the whole thing together. And he is like the expert of like everyone, like he's done stuff that no one has figured out how he's pulled off, and gets himself mixed up in this. It's just great. It's you will be surprised, you will be sucked in, and the other thing about The Conversation, it's got, especially compared to contemporary thrillers, it's got a rhythm to it that kind of throws you off. It's almost like the story sort of lulls you for a little bit, and you think it's going somewhere else, and then it completely takes you.
Do you think that was something in the 70s that was a style? A filmmaking style with the pacing, or
I think to some degree, I think to give it a little more, much like which isn't on my list but sort of fits the bill is just move this, is Taxi Driver, which also has that weird kind of lull you rhythm, and then it's. Oh, and Dutch Driver points out it's a precursor to Enemy of the State with Will Smith. Correct.
I thought the same thing, Dutch Driver. Yes, because Hackman then again is this a bit on the edge or over the edge surveillance. You never quite know where he's coming from in terms of intelligence, but somewhere with. Wow.
And he's a private contractor. He's wow, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, mentioning Taxi Driver just made me pop in.
Yep. King of Comedy is such a great, and it is kind of a thriller.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, it's a farce thriller, but doing stand-up comedy for a long time. There was always this fear that I think among a lot of comedians that we're all Rupert Pumpkin, that we all are performing to not necessarily a heart thriller, but it's got a little thriller element to it.
But there is
highly, yeah, exactly. And a caper. So but that's such a great. I love King of Comedy and a great soundtrack. Also, I own the soundtrack to that on vinyl.
Me too. Yeah, this is my.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I thought it was maybe a laser disc.
No,
nice. What music does to thrillers with that anticipation, if the music is right and it starts to crescendo at the right place, or even just if it's, when it's done well.
Third Man being an example.
Oh, it was on the other day. Yeah. I think that's the number one thriller is Third Man.
Oh, is it really?
Across, I think, almost every list.
And I think, I've got the trailer.
Interesting. I think. All right, Matthew, let's throw the recommendation spoon to you. What should we taste next?
Well, I invariably go for something very old, but I've been inspired by Jen to go for something a bit more modern. A modern film, for me, an extremely modern film, but one with a biblical theme, quite groundbreaking in its time. And the biblical theme is extremely well known because it says, "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you."
Pulp Fiction. Well done. Well done. One of the best Samuel Jackson.
I thought that was
the playlist.
John Travolta. I could.
And the amazing thing is that is what is Pulp Fiction? 94, 93?
Yeah, it's about 94.
94.
I think. Yeah.
And that thing has had it is such a incredible mix of influences from other films that you tracking all of it is just insanity because Quentin Tarantino is a cinephile, maybe to the point of being a little too much. He may have some kind of a trivia disease where he remembers. His movie knowledge is just insane. But Pulp Fiction it's in terms of the idea of something being memorable and having something that you can quote.
Iconic.
That thing is, and also that I remember when it came out listening to talk radio in Boston, and I was living in Boston at the time, and someone was complaining about the story being told out of sequence in a thick Boston accent, just losing his mind, going, "That John Travolta guy's right back." And he's just losing his mind because he died, and then he came. What? He couldn't wrap his head around a story being told out of sequence. But Pulp Fiction, it's
it was a new. He introduced us to. He paid. I think he was paying tribute. It was his homage to the cinema gods to usher in this new, the Tarantino way. Yes, he did Reservoir Dogs and he was on his way, but I think Pulp Fiction was his arrival. It was really, because from there on it was just looking back to the Tarantino way of doing things, and thank goodness, well done. Sorry, Mr. Boston guy, that's how we're doing it.
It was like I wanted to find that guy after he saw Memento, and then just listen to him complain about that story structure.
Dude, we got to shake things up every once in a while.
I agree, and Dutch Driver's pointing out full mastery of his style. I think that's what seems to be missing in mainstream commercial film is an allowance for style. Generic. That's the
formulaic, generic, or just not willing to be.
It just seems like with everything that's available now, Why not push it even further? Not that some filmmakers aren't,
it's
but
risky. The money, you know, it. When the spoon gets back to me, I'm switching to Women and a film from last year, which it's on. It's the only one from last year. There aren't many from. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Well, yeah. We'll go to you next, Jen. Do you have any? Now your set has changed. Any takes on Pulp Fiction?
On Pulp Fiction, well, considering I don't really like violent movies, I really love Pulp Fiction. It was one that blew my expectations away because I was like, "Ooh, Tarantino, a bit violent," but it's just so brilliantly made that you can kind of overlook the really gory bits where there's like brain.
I agree. I'm a scary
off people, but yeah, I think for me, I think it's his best film. It's just got everything in it. And it just flows and it just really works. It's very, very difficult to do that kind of narrative where it's kind of back to front, and he did it so well. I don't know, it's a really tricky thing to pull off. I mean, storytelling at its most complicated, and and I think we need a bit of that these days. Things have kind of got a bit simple sometimes in storytelling. So
yeah, I mean, imagine that storyboard and his index cards. There's probably like arrows everywhere
and it just works and it just flows and the pacing is just brilliant and it just, you know, I think it's his finest. I think so.
And interestingly, if you're in Los Angeles, which I have not taken advantage of since he took over ownership, but Quentin Tarantino owns the New Beverly Theater.
Wow.
On Beverly here in Los Angeles. It's a revival, retro, shows classic movies, but he apparently owns a ton of prints, so he shows his own prints of some films there, but he had thrown money at them, the people who were running it, to keep it going, and then it got to the point where it just was not a viable business, so he bought the place.
So is it an all Tarantino all the time kind? Because I could live with that.
I guess he has a whole lot to do with the programming. But it's
that's exciting.
He can afford it, but it's a cool idea for somebody who is, you know, that much of a film geek and among the directors who are trying to keep the physical idea of film manufacturing and developing and editing and shooting on, trying to keep all that alive.
Well, he'll probably, knowing him, maybe ally it with one of the film programs for up and coming people, students, and then does that have just one screen or more than one screen? I don't know.
It's just one screen.
It's just one screen. Okay.
Yeah, so, it's old school, like, you know, with the marquee and the crappy seats.
So it must be pretty. Yeah.
Wonderful. Those nice sticky carpets.
Yeah, it's not, you know, it probably seats 100 and something. It's not even it's not a huge theater at all.
It's exciting though. Good for him.
Yeah.
Well done.
No, it's good to have that kind of passion, really. I think that's why I admire him. I don't always go with the theme of his movies, isn't kind of my cup of tea, but I just so admire him as a director. So, and I think it's quite interesting that he can do that, really. So,
and also in terms of capers, for Jackie Brown is also probably one of his most sort of linear, old school, you know, not a ton of characters. It's all told at once. It's all one thing, and I think kind of an underestimated Tarantino story in terms of, you know, you can't compare it to Pulp Fiction. I don't know what he's ever done that you could, but
but that is like perfection almost, isn't it?
It's a great recommendation. It was one thing, I stole one thing from it in Vampire Mob, and it was more of a technical thing. I had to kill some people, and I had to kill them with crossbows and guns.
What a way to go!
And I knew that we were going to shoot it with no budget. I knew we were going to make up, and that was it. So I wrote a very simple little thing, and I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you shoot a guy with an arrow when I don't have any, you know, cool stuff? So the scene where Bruce Willis goes back for his watch and runs into John Travolta's character, that scene, the editing on that is how I figured out how I was going to shoot it. Because I'm like, I kept going back and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. you never see the shooting victim go clean to dirt. You just see cut, clean, cut, shot. So that's because I needed 3 bullets and I needed a crossbow to go into one person. So the way we did it was I had Makeup do the arrow. We shot the arrow. Then he left. Makeup did the first shot. He came back. We shot him with the first gunshot wound. Left, came back. Second one, left, came back. Third one. And then I cut all those together to make him get shot. And that was from Pulp Fiction.
This is what is important about classic filmmaking, and why Vampire Mob qualifies even as classic now too, because the creative aspect, and you don't see any blood ever in any classic film because they just wouldn't show it. It couldn't be shown, but you don't, either through acting or cutting, you get the impact and the effect of what's happening, and that's not good. You have to think and go, who did this? How did they do that? How can I show it? Maybe I can come up with it's not, the drama's not lost. The thrill, the fright, the fear, the shock. So well done, Joe Wilson, again.
Thank you.
I think
well, you can't show blood in black and white, can you? And even in early colour films, it wouldn't work.
It just doesn't even register. And sometimes, who wants to see just the squibs or whatever? It's not, or you can't get squibs, it's too expensive and blah blah blah. So
and the amazing thing is I ended up having 2 absolutely professional fight choreographers who had done Master and Commander. They worked on Hook, and they became a part of the production after I had written and planned and cast and all of it. And they came in, they made things so much better. But the first thing that Dan Speaker did was he went through every gun in the place. He went through the crossbows, and he was just, he rewired a couple of things on the crossbow to make things even safer and look better. But he's like, so there's no blanks. And I'm like, no, there's no blanks in the room. And he still went through every single gun, all the clips, all the magazines. I got hazed by one of the prop rental houses for saying, I need some clips for 45. Oh, you mean magazines? Yes, I need magazines.
Well, it's interchangeable as best as I mean, what does he have at home? A Nerf gun?
Well, what it is that he's just petrified to rent stuff to people who have no idea what they're doing. Even the stuff.
Okay. Liability, lawyers.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Colleen, the spoon goes over to you. What is your next recommendation?
Spoon. I think
actual spoon, the new prop. We're all going to have spoons now.
I'm okay. So I think I put this somewhere, Facebook, Twitter. I don't know where I put it. Where's my card? It's from 2014, and she's made for $26,000, and it's on Rotten Tomatoes. A girl walks home alone at night. And you can't believe what's the description. An Iranian vampire Western.
What?
Yeah. It got a phenomenal score. A girl walks home alone at night. A
girl walks home alone at night. I've never heard of this.
No, well, it's made last year. And it was at Sundance, whatever that means. But I saw it. It had phenomenal. It's the only modern film besides like Argo and smattering of some of what we talked about and others that's on Rotten Tomatoes, with all these other films that were made, 50 to 70 years ago. And it's on there. And I read the reviews, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going for it. It's in Farsi. It's got subtitles. But it was something else. It's got the other words used, a graphic novel. Spaghetti Western horror, and sure enough, there's a real vampire, and it's in black and white. It's cinematically gorgeous, interesting, really, really interesting stories. It also has that a bit of the 70s, that pacing, where it slows down, but you're building towards something. It's written and directed by a young woman. And it was just,
Oh, was this shot in Iran and she had to direct from vans?
No, it was shot in Bakersfield, California.
Oh, okay. Because I know of a film that was directed, I believe, in Iran, and the director...
Iran, not Iran.
Oh, sorry, Iran. Sorry.
Thank you. You ignorant colonial bumpkins.
And he fires.
I ran so far away from Iran. So in Iran, she could not be, out on a set telling men what to do. So it was in a van hidden away and was directing off monitors.
That went on. That did, but I don't think it was her name. I have it written down. I'm sorry. Her name. I shouldn't.
Oh, no worries.
She is Anna Lily Amirpour. And I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. But she, it was amazing. Great cast, and it's about great subplots. It's cool. It was well done, and it definitely is worth watching. I hope she makes more movies. Even great music in it, and of course the black and white was nice to see. Not because it has to be. It helps with the drama. So something I wanted to have something newer because. Again, it's just, and a woman, because we're hoping for more female filmmakers, we need to have more. And exciting, really good. It's on, I wrote down too, it's on Amazon, Netflix, and iTunes.
Oh, nice.
If anyone wants to see it. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. That's great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I will take that one. Yeah, there's one definitely would have flown under the radar for me.
I think for most people, but it's got a lot of comments and feedback on there. And like I said, if anyone who doesn't go to IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes to look for something different, something new, that's where I found it.
Right.
So.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Jen, the spoon goes to you. What are we tasting next?
Oh, I was just tweeting. Hold on.
I didn't mean to interrupt you mid-tweet.
I was just tweeting out the babblation I was trying to tweet a picture and it was too technical to do both at once. So would you like old, new, or
let's go old, since we've been going newish for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Gaslight.
Oh yeah,
which is George Cukor.
So there's a husband and wife scene going here.
Yeah, that's really creepy. It's a great old movie, and it's actually a remake. I was reading when I was looking it up, and there's another version with Anton Walbrook, who was in The Red Shoes, another Powell Pressburger, and so it's a remake. And apparently Disney bought up. I think it's a Disney movie. I can't remember now, but they bought up all the rights and completely buried the original 1940 movie, and remade this movie in 1944, just 4 years later. So, and it's got Ingrid Bergman, and it's brilliant. I've put a little link to the trailer, and you can tell it's just so fantastic and edgy, and it's proper thriller, mind games. It's just brilliant. I really recommend it. I think it's one of the. I mean, I mentioned it last week when we did the 1940s-ish blab.
Right.
So I wanted to mention it again because it's proper in the thriller genre, and it's just a brilliant film. Everyone should see it. So,
do you know who was in the 1940 version?
This is the 1940.
I think it was Anton Walbrook, and I can't remember who the woman was.
No, this one was 1940. I think.
No, this one's 1944.
This is
the one with Ingrid Bergman's 1944, and the Anton Walbrook one was 1940. So.
Wow.
And I
can interesting.
I can give you a clip of the 1940 one as well.
Interesting that they buried it.
You can go back and have a little look.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there was an original Gaslight in 1940, and then they remade it in 44 with Ingrid Bergman. So yeah, interesting.
Which is so common now; it's ridiculous.
But remaking movies is so close.
Yeah. Now there's no reason to bury it. Yeah, Spider-Man again. Yeah. Why not? Everybody forgot, right? We just made it.
I mean, I've not seen the last umpteen Spider-Man, Supermans, and Batmans. You can't keep up with it.
No.
Yep.
I know, and I got confused, and I went to think, I must see the new Superman, and then they'd made another one, and I was really, really confused at which one I should see. I was like, they've made another one? I didn't even see the last one. So, yeah,
it's called Angel Street, with Anton Wahlberg. That's why, I'm sorry, yep. Husband tries to drive his wife insane.
Yeah.
So I
got right, they've got it under a different title. That's interesting.
That's what. But there's probably other posters. Yeah. Maybe they promoted it differently in. Yep. So okay. Yep.
And I remember the 1944 one, of course, because Angela Lansbury is one of Angela Lansbury's early roles, and she's brilliant. She's just so brilliant in it. I love Angela Lansbury.
Her first, she was so beautiful and cheeky little chambermaid. So
yeah. So it's like it's such a great
candidate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Quite the contrast. Between roles. All right, Matthew, the spoon now goes to you. What are we tasting next?
Let's go for a film that nobody's ever seen apart from me. It's a made-for-TV movie, which is probably why nobody's ever seen it, from 1969, and it's called Run a Crooked Mile. And it stars Louis Jourdan.
Ooh,
interesting.
And Mary Tyler Moore, who's incredibly glamorous in it. And it's got such a wonderful twist in it. And I saw it once in about 1970-something or 80-something on TV. And never saw it again until recently when somebody found it and stuck it on YouTube. And I'm really grateful. So the story is the star, Louis Jourdan, is a school teacher. He's driving along to go and meet somebody. And he gets kind of run off the road by some nutter in a Rolls Royce. And that damages his car. So he turns his car around and chases after this Rolls Royce and tracks it down to a big, rather ramshackle mansion. And he goes into the house to try and find out who this guy is who's run him off the road. And he can't get it in, so he kind of breaks in through a back window. And in going into the house, he witnesses a murder. But then, before he can, he escapes, calls the police. But when he goes to investigate it, the people who've done the murder are onto him, and they knock him out with the intention of doing away with him. But what happens is, when he gets knocked out, he gets amnesia. And so the film cuts from him being knocked out to 2 years later, when he's fallen off a horse and he's got his original memory back.
Whoa.
So the second part of the film is him trying to track down what the heck has gone on, because he's a school teacher, he's blundered into this thing, he's got knocked on the head, and the next thing you know is he wakes up in Switzerland, apparently with a different name and a different identity. He's got married. He's apparently a rich playboy who plays polo. But he wakes up saying, "This isn't me. Why are you calling me this name? I'm not this person at all." So then he has to go on this chase to find out the people who did the murder and did all this to him. So yeah, it's got some real twists in it. Say nobody's ever seen it apart from me.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I don't know. It sounds a bit familiar. I think I might have seen it, but not all the way through. It's one of the ones I think you catch one random night.
Maybe
The only thing that lets it down is the last 90 seconds, last 2 minutes. It's just a little bit weak on the last 2 minutes. But apart from that, it's very good, very well paced, very stylish as well.
Louis Jourdan.
You know the era of the Persuaders and the Champions and all that kind of stuff. It's that kind of thing, that really kind of cool and glossy look about it.
Nice. Very cool. My recommendation, sort of jumping off of the idea of Run a Crooked Mile, where you don't know who's who, is and recent-ish 90s, The Usual Suspects.
Oh, that's on my list. Yeah.
It's
brilliant.
It is definitely one of those twist movies that you you want to watch again immediately after it's over, just to figure out what the hell you missed while it was going by you. Kevin Spacey's great in it.
Yeah.
And he's also in another one on my list, which is recent-ish, and I do have Seven.
Oh, that's sinister and thrilling. It's
a bit gory for me.
It is gory, but it does.
It's good.
I guess
it's got a
similar vibe. Similar vibe to another one on my list. I'm just going to blow recommendations because we're out of time. Is Silence of the Lambs. There's something. There's something about these two that have some parallels. But and I don't want to give because both have great twists.
Can't give anything away in there. They're worth watching.
No.
But I would if you are in the thriller, edge of your seat, try to figure out what the hell is going on. Both of these will do the.
It'll help to watch anything with Kevin Spacey for a time after Seven. Just a warning, because he's so
true. And I would actually suggest watching Usual Suspects first.
Yeah,
but
first. Because he's
out of the two, I would go Usual Suspects before Seven. But and Usual Suspects, it's old time bad guys style to it almost, and it's just the twists on it are just and Dust Driver's pointing out in Blowout too. Old movie with John Travolta from the extremely late 70s, early 80s. That's about a Foley guy, sound guy.
Probably
that is also
enough notoriety about. I don't think, but glad he mentioned it.
And I don't know if that's been has that been remade? I somehow remember Blowout being remade.
Blowout has been remade, yeah.
And I'm imagining not as well.
Wasn't it called the other version called the Parallax View?
I don't know. I don't know if that was. I remember the Parallax View existing, but I don't know if it was the same. I think it was different. It was different. But that did. Parallax View is reminding me of another thriller.
I think that's it. I think it is. I think Blowout was a reinterpretation of
Well, as we're closing out the last 13 minutes or so, what's your next recommendation, Colleen?
It's two, because to me there's some parallels, I think, but they stand alone. Chronologically, it's Gun Violence.
I'm sorry, your sound broke up on that. What was the title of it?
There's two of them, because for me at least, there's a parallel with them both. Chronologically I'll go first with Gun Crazy and then Badlands.
Okay.
So it's
what?
Well, they're two.
I know of both of them, but I don't know anything about them.
Well, they're both two couples that essentially go on killing sprees unexpectedly, in a way, and it's just neither one is, especially Gun Crazy. I saw that for the first time during TCM's Noir Fest this year, and for 1950, and Peggy Cummins was the actress in Gun Crazy from Wales. Not what you'd expect. This, I hate to sound stereotypical, but a woman in 1950 running around. I don't want to give it away. It's John Dahl's also in it. They meet at a carnival. It's so well done, and so just unbelievable. They meet and what happens to them. Just really well worth watching. I was so surprised, and by now I've seen so many noir and so many. It just keeps going. It keeps going. It's unbelievable, and what an ending. Badlands is classic. Terrence Malick with Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, and he's this sort of drifter person living in this town of nothing, and they meet up, and she's kind of a lost kid living with her dad, and he convinces her, to sort of run away with him, and so but it's it's got hints of maybe this is I'd have to look what Tarantino was influenced by, but I kind of think there's some Badlands in him. I do.
I am sure there is a whole lot of everything.
I think, yeah, but it just in my head just a bing, but that happens all the time. So there's all sorts of things banging around in there. So those two, I know we're getting late here. So
yeah, no worries. Very cool. Gaslight and Gun Crazy and Badlands. I'm reading my own list poorly. Matthew, what's your recommendation, or probably the last recommendation we'll close out?
Yeah, going back to the point I started with about what is a thriller, I'd like to mention 3 films to make one point about what is a thriller. And those are 3 of Spielberg's movies, which are Juggernaut, which we've mentioned in previous blabulations, brilliant movie, and Close Encounters and Jaws. Unfortunately, Close Encounters and Jaws are remembered for rubber sharks and silly lights. But all 3 films are based on brilliant acting. Throw the special effects away, you've still got a great movie. Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters, superb bit of character acting. And the thriller element, of course, is him trying to find out what the hell's going on in his head and trying to chase down this event in Monument Valley. So often there are really good thrillers there in front of you, but sometimes you can't see them because of all the glitz and the glam. And those are good examples of it.
Even they did the best with what they had at the time, and I think the story and the plot, they survive above it all, really. I mean, you look at the boat, it's the boat, it's the message and the themes of what come through, still above it all, and what they accomplished.
Yeah.
Well, especially the music with Jaws. I mean, that's probably one of the most iconic John Williams score. Do 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 do. It's just, for thriller, music wise, it kind of really properly fits the bill. And the music, I think, is as much the star of Jaws as the
and Robert Shaw.
Shark.
It's a small part, but he brings so much to the film.
Yeah, and the 3 of them together in the boat, that really is the core of the movie, isn't it? And that's so, like so many good films, it's either 2 or 3 people in a small space, no outside world. That's where you always get the real magic going on.
And it's conquering good, conquering evil, good versus bad. It's whatever you want to do. How do we beat this? How do we conquer?
And all 3 of those characters are so different in the same predicament. It's fun. It's just fun to watch.
Yeah, and now it's fun because that shark isn't great, and you just look and go, "Oh man!" But it's kind of fun in a way. It's just fun. I don't know. It's like I said, it's all he had at the time, and everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid back then. I couldn't go see it. I was too young.
People weren't going in their swimming pools when Jaws was out.
Yeah.
No.
But again, like another point I made the other week, that here we've got a film with 3 leading guys effectively, and they're not the modern type of muscle-bound punching people in the head action hero.
True.
The 2 of them are cowards, which is wonderful, and yet they're utterly heroic despite being cowards.
Well, they were great at they played their parts. They did. You believed them. You believed them. I don't know. It's Quint. It's who they were in those roles. That then you couldn't. And that scene, you're like, if someone said, "Quick, who are those actors?" You're like, I don't know. You're just not thinking about it. So that's memorable. You're thinking about the characters. And Close Encounters. It's one of our, ushering us into this new space age, or we're into the space age and into the what's out there age. So.
On Dutch Drivers, recommending Charade with Grant Hepburn, Matthau, and
yes, another great spy movie. And I'll throw out quickly Red October, Hunt for Red October, which I could do a table read cold with no script in front of me. I know all the
Jen, what's your next recommendation?
Okay, I'm going to go for one that's kind of in the horror zone a little bit.
Okay.
Which is The Shining, the Kubrick.
Oh yeah.
I just find that film so creepy, and I love all the scenes with the little boy riding around on his little trike in the hotel, and it's just the build up to it is just so fantastic, where Jack Nicholson is just slowly losing his mind. It's like the scene when he's at the typewriter. Oh my God, that's the kind of the dropping point of the movie where you think, oh my, and you just see, and then she goes and sees what he's been typing, and it's just such a wonderful movie.
It's kind of like a crock-pot thriller because it's slowly cooking.
Yeah, and it's just the little details of it, like the photographs at the end. I just think, it's just this little, just yum, film yumminess, isn't it? But it's just, it's like, I think Matthew was talking about one with you've just got 3 characters basically, and they're off. They can't get away. They're snowed in, and it's that kind of isolation. I think it makes a really good thriller. It's got that space to it. A really good thriller's got space around it, and I think Kubrick, just his style. He's got a very spacious filming style. He really gets the kind of the epicness of a scene in the way he directs and the cinematography and everything, and he just does that so brilliantly. He does it in 2001 as well, which is also a pretty creepy film actually. I mean, that's kind of in the thriller zone as well, with the Howl and his very calm Dave.
That's the thing in talking about thrillers, when you can talk about a war film that is thrillerish, you can talk about sci-fi, which we have, which is thrillerish. So they all kind of mix together. But The Shining's, if you're looking to get scared, it'll do it.
Yeah,
I think. And my last recommendation, and we'll just throw out some quick titles at the end if you guys have more, is Blue Velvet, which is 86-ish, I think, 86, 87, somewhere in there. I saw this in the movies. I didn't realize what a giant influence it was until way later on me, and it's nothing obvious. I'm nowhere near as unique as Mr. Lynch, but the what's dark, what's funny. This thing gets really crazy dark. Blue Velvet gets just dark, and also is absolute fantasy at times in a different way. And Dennis Hopper is at his, I think his scariest out of, I've never seen him this far over the edge. But Blue Velvet, again, you remember it. It's quotable. It's a movie that starts with someone finding an ear in a field.
I'm not sure if
it goes on from there, and it's another one of those onions. There's more onion. What? That is, I love those kind of stories, and it does have there's just a little bit of farce. It's David Lynch's style comes on a little harder here and there. That sort of adds to the fantasy element of it, in my mind. But I love Blue Velvet. Always will. Loved it when I first saw it. Watched it multiple viewings, and it's
can't leave out David
good
Lynch.
Bad Guys.
Yeah.
Huh?
Can't leave out David Lynch. I'm glad you.
Yeah, it's there. Mulholland Drive definitely is another favorite, and that has kind of these elements to it. But Blue Velvet's just, I think out of everything he's made is the most, even above Elephant Man for me, is the most memorable out of all of them.
Oh, the John Hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That is. I haven't even thought about that one for ages. That's a great movie. Yeah.
And Eraserhead is a very bizarre movie. A lot of people cannot stand it. It's more like it's gorgeous. I mean, the movie is shot on 35 millimeter. They spent 5 years making it. There are actually scenes where you see a character walk into a door, and then when he goes in the room, it's 2 years later in terms of the shooting schedule. Yeah, there's a great making of about Eraserhead on YouTube. That they were pretty much like hiding in a barn on the campus of the American Film Institute, the old one, and after they were They weren't students. They just kept shooting. It's just a great.
We're not leaving.
Yeah, we're just going to keep.
We're just going.
You know, especially 35 millimeter, all the rest of it. But another bizarre film and a bizarre soundtrack, Eraserhead. Definitely not so much of a thriller, but I'd recommend it just to see what can be done with film and sound and storytelling, and it's so basic and simple and nuts. All right, so let's just go quick round. One more title. Everyone will just throw out a title, and then we'll go on from there. Colleen, is there another one on your list that you're like, I wish I said that?
There's look, I'm gonna just throw out the name Catherine Bigelow and say The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. There you go.
Cool. Look that one up. Matthew, is there a quick title or two that you were like, I should have said that one?
Well, we've got to have Bogey, don't we? So let's have The Maltese Falcon, one of the greatest thrillers of all time.
Oh yeah.
Nicely done. Yeah, we definitely have to do just a film noir episode.
Yeah.
That would be hella fun. And Jen, is there another one that you wish you'd thrown out?
Sorry, if we're going to do a film noir episode, we've got to talk in film noirese as we do it.
Oh my gosh.
I may have to practice.
Yes, I agree. I agree. We'll have to be, you guys will be dames. One of you guys have to be Johnny. Figure it out. Both Johnny. Johnny 1, Johnny 2.
Joey
and Johnny.
Joey and Johnny.
Hilarious. And Jen, what's your final sleuth? Lawrence?
The original from 73, not to be confused with the remake. This is brilliant. It's just Kane and Olivier through the whole movie. There's no one else, and it is brilliant. And it knocks socks off the remake. The remake was don't even want to go there. But yeah, if you watch the original, it's classic thriller.
Very cool. I have never seen that.
Yeah, it's highly, highly recommended. So I'm glad I got it in.
Remade with Christopher Reeve.
Oh yeah,
no, it was remade with who's the blonde guy? He's got like a baby face.
Google.
I can't think of his name.
Google. We'll have to Google it.
Google it.
Google it.
It's somewhere in my brain. I'll probably think of it just as I'm. I can see him, but I can't think of his name.
No worries. We don't have to go to commercial break or anything.
Let's have a look. Jude Law, 2007.
I'm getting it mixed up with Death Trap, which was also.
Yeah, Jude Law. It's Jude Law.
That was recent-ish.
I know which one you're thinking of, though, Matthew, with Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine.
Oh, that's the remake.
It's their. He's a playwright, and he steals his play, and it's a great movie, also. But I can't think of the title.
I think Christopher Reeve did the remake of Rear Window, didn't he?
Yep. After he was Paramount.
He was,
and I can't remember.
That was actually not, but they didn't. I don't know. They talked poorly about it, but I thought it was ambitious and interesting.
Yeah.
And again, the amazing thing about Rear Window, that's a set. It's not. It's all built, and it's I love the story in a bottle. No matter how, The Shining is a story in a bottle. It's a big bottle, but it's a bottle. Yeah. And I just love when you have characters sort of trapped in a world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love contained sets, contained rooms, and just one room. 12 Angry Men. They're in one room.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's when it's about writing, it's about acting, it's about the story, because you don't have anything else to distract from the lack of it.
So when it's good, it's good.
If you don't have it, it's going to really suck. So if you guys are up for another classic movie blabulation next week, what sort of things would you guys like to because we can stretch it, because I think like thriller is a great thing, because we were jumping all over, from last year to the 30s.
Subgenres you can do. I mean, there's psychological thrillers, there's war, there's everything. I mean,
comedies.
So what would you guys like to do?
Espionage. There's so many things. There's noir.
Noir.
Do you want to do a decade? Do you want to do another decade? A Dust Driver saying gangsters.
Yeah, decades might be quite
fun. A decade's fun. You can pick a decade.
Yeah, let's do another decade.
Have to prepare for the noir. I mean, we're going to need costumes and scripts almost.
I
know. maybe we'll do the noir after this one.
Dust Driver has a good idea too. Gangsters.
Oh, gangsters! Yeah, gangster movies would be great.
We were talking about our real life hanging out.
Yeah, we were talking about a lot.
It's a good one for Colleen.
Well, do you want to do? Let's see. We did the 40s. Do you want to either go back to the 30s or forward to the 50s?
They're both win-win. So.
Oh yeah. I agree. Let's go old then. Let's go older.
30s.
So it's only films from the 1930s.
There's a lot of gravy there. There's a lot of stuff there. Good.
And that is what we'll. So same time, same channel. Are you guys all cool with that?
Yeah.
Very good. Dust Driver, thank you once again for hanging out with us. And Baron Graham, thanks for jumping in. And we have a bunch of other people that have come and gone, but thank you very much for joining us for the classic movie blabulation. And Jen Govey, Colleen Costello, Matthew Ward. We will be back here next week, and we're going to be talking about movies that were only made in the 1930s, which always leads us to movies that were made in other decades. But that is the great thing about the blabulation. There's rules, and then not so much. But again, Colleen, Jen, Matthew.
Thank you, Joe Wilson.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.